This is Derek Thomas, and he's a partner with KPMG. And I think when you were here, you played a little bit of tennis, right?
Soccer.
Soccer. Oh, yeah. Okay, soccer. And he's a Liberty alumni, and he's done real well. And I'm sure he's got a lot of interesting things to tell you. So I'm going to let him go ahead and get started.
It's like surround sound. I can tell you this much, we did not have this when I was here 20 years ago.
What do you think of the campus now?
It's slightly different than when I was here. I was telling Dr. Sullivan when I walked over, I did not realize there was that much space on campus to keep building, but then he reminded me that some stuff has been torn down from when I was here. So it was great to see. I was really praying on the way down, trying to figure out what my approach tonight was going to be. And if you guys are kind of open to it, I want to tell you a little bit about my story, my testimony, the things that I've gone through my career. And I actually did bring a presentation, which I typically do, but I felt that this would be a great opportunity for us to engage more, maybe be able to discuss questions that you guys may have about accounting and what it's like. And I want to discuss business aspects with you too, but I also want to discuss also what it's like being a Christian and then going out into the business world, because for me, that has been one of the biggest challenges that you will face, especially when you come off of a campus where you're surrounded by Christians on a regular basis, you're taking classes and things, and then all of a sudden you're out in the real world, and you're going to have a lot of obstacles that you're going to face. And I'm really thankful for the foundation that I got from being at Liberty that allowed me to deal with some of the challenges that I have faced in the course of my career. So those are some of the things I think I just want to talk about a little bit. Before I start kind of diving into my background, I did want to introduce my wife, who I'm very happy that she's able to join me. This is Latoya Thomas. Coincidentally or not, she is also an accountant. So the thing tonight that you'll actually get a chance to ask me questions. By way of background, I'm an auditor, and I'm going to discuss that a little bit more, but my wife is actually, she works for KPMG. She used to work for another Big Four firm before that, which I won't bring up. But she's on the advisory side of things. She's also done accounting as an accounting manager, so she's more versatile than I am. So she's actually seen some different things. So, me, where I've primarily been an auditor most of my life, she's actually done the other aspects of it. So you get a real big mix with the questions tonight that she can fill in on things that will give you a different perspective than I probably could, from my experience. One of the things I like to do when I come here, in this great turnout tonight, I like to kind of hear who all is in the room and who I'm going to be speaking with this evening. So maybe we could kind of start down here. If you give your name, what year you are, your major, or your hope to do your major, and maybe your home, where's home for you?
Yes, sir.
Sure.
My name is Alyssa Magyar. I'm a sophomore. I'm an accounting major, minoring in business, and I've lived in Lynchburg for about 6 years now.
My name is Erica Balboa. I'm a junior. I'm an accounting major also. I'm from New Jersey. I'm Laura Morris. I'm a junior accounting major also. And I'm from Bedford County, Virginia.
Where in Virginia?
Bedford County.
Okay, so west. You remember a little bit how to get out there off 460.
My name is Hannah Austin. I'm a junior accounting major and minor, and I'm from South Carolina.
I'm Danielle Bush. I'm a freshman and an accounting major with a double minor in business and pre-law, and I'm from Chesapeake, Virginia.
I'm Cody Smith. I'm a sophomore. I'm majoring in finance, economics, and accounting from McCutcheon, Pennsylvania.
Tim Fink. I'm majoring in accounting, finance, and economics. I'm a senior, and I'm from Atlanta, Georgia.
My name is Laura Cangiano. I'm from New Jersey. I'm majoring in accounting and minor in business. And
My name is Rebecca Cho. I'm a freshman majoring in accounting, and I'm from DC.
Where in DC?
I'm from Columbia Heights.
Columbia Heights up in Maryland? Or DC, you're actually in DC. Okay, there's not a lot of people that actually from DC. Okay.
I'm Jessica Buckmaster, and I'm a BMIS major, accounting IS cognate.
I said BMIS.
Sorry,
And you're fine. I was trying to figure out what it was, and I wasn't coming up with anything.
Business and Management Information Systems.
Okay. All right.
With an accounting
Gotcha.
IS.
Okay.
I'm from Los Angeles, and I'm a senior.
My name is Wendell Clark. I'm a junior from the Bahamas. Accounting major.
I'm Brandon. I'm a fashion merchandising major. Just kidding. Probably would not be here.
We're welcoming everybody.
I sent out the email. Just kidding. I'm Brandon. I'm an accounting major with a minor in business, and I'm from New York, and I'm a junior.
I'm Matt Ledden. I'm from New Jersey. I'm majoring in accounting, and I'm a junior.
I'm Rachel Brown. I'm a junior accounting major, minor in Spanish. I'm from Omaha, Nebraska.
My name is Andrew Hassler. I'm an accounting major with a business minor. I'm a senior in Durham, North Carolina.
My name is Jonathan Hassler, brother of Andrew Hassler.
Okay.
I'm a freshman here, and I'm also an accounting major.
I'm Brendan. I'm a junior accounting major with a minor in sport management, and I'm from Syracuse, New York.
We should date a girl from Syracuse when I was here.
She's
long gone. Keep going.
I'm Daniel Plana. I'm a senior accounting major with a minor in business, and I'm from Norfolk, Virginia.
Okay.
My name is Robert Short. I'm a senior. I'm from Lynchburg, Virginia. I'm an accounting major with a business minor.
My name is Simon Harris. I'm a sophomore accounting major from Maryland.
Where in Maryland?
From Cecil County, Maryland. It's in the northeast part of the state.
Okay. That's a little bit further north than I did, so I'm not familiar. Well, I'm glad everybody was able to make it out tonight. I mean, we're really excited to be here this evening. And I guess before we get started, so somebody want to just open us up in a word of prayer before we get going?
I can do that.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Dear Lord, I'd like to thank you so much for this day, and I'd like to thank you for getting Derek here safely, that you would just help him also to have a safe trip back. I'd like to thank you for the insight he'll be able to bring along with his wife. And Lord, I'd like to thank you that it's a testament that someone graduating from here can make it somewhere in the accounting world. And Lord, I pray you would just help us to all listen intently, and then just truly gain something from this meeting. And bless the food. Amen.
That would just dive right in. All right, I'm going to give you a little bit of background about me, and I think as we go, I just want to open up a dialogue. Like I said, coming down this evening, actually for the last couple of days, I really kind of sat there and said, what would be beneficial to students if I was back in school? What would be helpful? We have about 5,000 presentations. I can throw out a presentation left and right, and sometimes I think we get so caught up in the formality of things and hitting all the right words so you guys can get kind of the right topics. And I think really just discussing some of the real life things that we've kind of experienced, to me, was some of the things that kind of helped me out along my way. And so those are some of the things I hope my wife and I can share with you this evening. And just kind of have more of a dialogue. And I want to see what's on your minds. I mean, some of you are seniors. Raise your hand again, all those who are seniors. Okay, so you got a number of you. How many of seniors already got a job ready to go? Yeah, I was with the people that didn't raise their hand. And that wasn't because I was going to graduate school. It was just a tough market coming out. So as I go in and start looking back, I'm like, what can I do to try to help people to get prepared as they start getting out? Because there's just things that I just wasn't ready for. Things that I should have been more proactive about. But just to give you a kind of brief background about me, I actually grew up in a Christian family. Very fortunate. Received Christ as my Savior around the age of 10. That being said, while I had a good application of my Christianity, I don't think I was really always living it to the fullest. I did not necessarily have a real deep relationship. I was very involved in sports growing up, so more of my friends were more secular than they were friends in the church. So I always had a good group because of my family, but then also kind of had my foot, halfway on the other side of the secular world. Growing up playing sports, I grew up primarily in Michigan. While born in Virginia, I grew up primarily in Michigan. Most of my formative years, I'd like to say, from probably 3rd grade up to my 11th grade year. And some of the biggest events that happened to me was my junior year. I actually was playing in the state championship for soccer. up in Michigan, and my dad had already accepted a job to move. And being halfway through my junior year was really a tough time to move. I'm a year away from graduating. I've had friends for years, and that was a real challenge for me. And we literally played in the state championship on a Saturday, and we literally moved from Michigan to Chesapeake, Virginia the following Sunday. And that was one of the hardest things. And I think while I was already struggling from a Christianity standpoint, that kind of just put me over the edge at that point. So I was just way gone and rebelling against my parents, going through a lot of struggles. If there was anything I could do to get my parents upset, I found it. I found everybody I could kind of push. And God bless my parents. If you ever get a chance to meet my parents, my parents are probably one of the greatest walking testimonies I've ever seen in my life. I wouldn't even say it's probably, they are by far. And the impact that they've had on people's lives around them has been amazing. And I am very blessed to have parents like that through it all allow me just to kind of work through my own issues. And over time, I found myself getting back in the church and more involved and kind of getting my life rededicated during my senior year of high school. And I say all that because that's really what led me here to Liberty. And, I didn't even know what Liberty was. I didn't know there was a school. I was still playing, all my sports, soccer, basketball, and track, and had received a few scholarships for track and some other places for soccer. And, my pastor, who had graduated from Liberty, he's on the board now, Alan McFarland, and, he was really encouraging me and brought me up. Come on in, no problem. And he brought me out for a visit. Now, it didn't hurt that I was dating his daughter at the time, who was happening also to go into Liberty. But I was able to send him the tape, and I realized that for the first time that I really needed a place that I could go that Christ would be one of the biggest focuses for me while I was going to school, that I could continue to grow in my faith, and at the same time grow technically, get prepared for life after school. And really high up on my list too was I got to play soccer. So, it was really wrapped up the best of all worlds. So I came up here and I spent 4 years. I've told a few of you, I actually had tax and cost accounting with Dr. Sullivan. That would have been probably about 21, 22 years ago. Passed both of them, so I did make it out of there. But I got a really great experience here. The teachers here were great. I really enjoyed my classes. It really gave me the passion, for accounting. It was something in high school that I had decided to do, and then it was just reinforced going through my classes here. But I came out of school, I graduated, and like I said, I had a real tough time, and I was probably really behind the 8 ball. For those of you, when you're looking for jobs, a lot of you who are not seniors yet, if you're looking to go, the big time recruiting is really like late summer and the fall. That's when a lot of things are going on. And so, I didn't realize that at the time. And so by the time I actually came back, I redshirted in soccer, came back for 1 semester. And, I came out in December. I graduated in May, but I played 1 more semester, left in December. Couldn't find a job to save my life. And it was a really frustrating time trying to get my career started. So I was actually living with my parents for about 4 or 5 months. I was interviewing with anything from Maryland to Virginia, wherever I could find and send resumes. I was just looking up accounting firms and phone books. This is how far back it was. We didn't have the internet to that degree that it was now. And so I literally was like Yellow Pages trying to look up firms and trying to see what sounded big enough to try to get my foot in the door. And finally, I got this opportunity with a firm that was at that time called Goodman & Company. It's now called Dixon, Hughes & Goodman. And they gave me an opportunity to come in as a staff accountant. And it was a really tough decision because I'd actually got a job working for a corporation, actually making a little bit more money, but I really felt coming out of college that I really wanted to start in public accounting to get kind of a more broader base of, my foundation for building my career. And one of the things actually, a big part from taking Dr. Sullivan's class that I actually really thought I was really heavy for tax. I didn't like my autonomy class at all, no offense to my professor at the time. But tax, I really loved my tax class, and so I wanted to go to a firm that would get that experience. And at Dixon, at Goodman & Company, I actually got the chance to do both tax and audit. And it was a really great experience. I was there for about 4.5 years. I was working out of the Richmond, Virginia office, and I got promoted up. And I'll tell you, one of the first big lessons I learned coming out of school and from a career perspective was actually at Goodland & Company. I've been working for 2 years, and I thought I was up for senior associate. And I sat down, and it was that time of year for promotions and increases and things. And to this day, I remember sitting in the partner's office. I can see his face as clear as anything, and I was feeling pretty good about it. I really felt like, hey, I'm working hard, and hey, hard work pays off, right? I sat down, waiting for the news, and come to find out I didn't get promoted. And it was one of the most disappointing things. I felt like I've been really working hard for 2 years. I felt like, hey, I've been kind of, as you know, taught to just, hey, if you work hard, you get rewarded for it. And so it just kind of blew my mind. And the words that just stuck with me, that kind of really paved the rest of my career, I started asking, like, what do I need to do to get promoted? What should I have done? And that's the one thing. When you're not achieving your goals, the first thing I'm going to tell you is, like, you need to start asking questions. What am I missing? What am I not doing? Find out, what are they looking for? And he starts rattling off these things that he thinks I should be doing, that I need to do to become a senior associate. And I'm talking back with him, I'm like, but I'm already doing all this stuff. I was in charge of jobs, I was running engagements. And the lesson that I got was this. He looked up at me just kind of dumbfounded, and he looks at me and he goes, well, we didn't even know you wanted to get promoted. And I sat there going, I didn't know I needed to tell you. I was like, I thought it was implied. I was like, are there people here who want to stay an associate for the rest of their lives? I didn't think there were. I wasn't one of them. But that was something to me where, again, that was like that first big lesson where I'm like, you definitely have to work hard. You definitely have to try to do the best that you can do. But it does take a little bit more than that. You got to be vocal. You got to communicate your objectives. You got to make sure people know your goals. And the one thing I'll discuss in a little bit more in a minute is you need that support group. You need people. You need mentors. You need sponsors. You need people who are really helping you along the way. I can definitively say, from mentors that I've had in the field of accounting, from work perspective, friends, family, I would not be where I am today without any of it. Okay, and it's near impossible in my mind that you're going to find a lot of people who are going to say they got all the way where they were by themselves. And we'll talk a little bit more about those relationships in a minute, because I think that's going to be a really key thing. But you got to realize that there is a lot more to do. For me, coming out of school, I graduated with honors. So I'm thinking, hey, I graduated with honors. Someone's supposed to just hand me a job. Again, it doesn't just happen. So it's not enough just to work hard, but you got to be proactive. You got to go out there. You got to be making, networking is so key. Getting to know people now. I had a few folks right when I came in just start introducing themselves and talking to me. And those are the impressions that you leave. And you never know whether or not you end up at my firm or end up in a company or doing something completely different. You never know who you're going to end up meeting and how you may circle back one day. A guy I worked with 14 years ago, someone came up to me, completely unrelated, was looking for a guy that did taxes, and I hadn't talked to this guy in over a decade. And because I remembered him and the impression that he left on me, I thought he was a good guy. That's who I decided to refer. I mean, we're having lunch next Tuesday, and all of a sudden he's getting some extra business out of nowhere because we were able to we kept in touch. We were on LinkedIn and did some things, but you just never know. And again, when you guys are out there looking for jobs, getting out there and meeting people, you really have to be proactive. And it really starts early on. Really, I was talking to Danielle earlier, freshman, she's talking about having an internship this summer. I mean, I would, you don't want to rush through college, but man, starting off that as a freshman, starting to get internships, that is the way to do it. I don't know how many interviews a year, but when I'm on campus, that's the thing I'm looking for. I mean, I'm gonna probably see a lot of people that have good grades. I mean, most of the people, it's competitive. I'm seeing people from anywhere from a 3.4 to a 3.9 to a 4.0. And some of these people, grade-wise, I don't always be able to distinguish. They're all doing well. So then I start looking for the other things. It's the leadership skills. It's people who are involved in clubs and societies. And not just having it on your resume. I mean, everybody figured out that trick a long time ago. all right, where people join a lot of things and they put it on their resume, but they barely attend. So literally, the first thing I do is saying, what are they doing as part of that club? Are they on a committee? Are they in a leadership role? How involved are they? Are they showing me something as a leadership? I'm looking for the internships. Frankly, at some point, you may not always get that first accounting internship if that's what you're majoring in, or IT, or whatever you're doing. But at some point, just moving into the business environment is just great, because it's a big difference working in a business environment, versus working at, no offense, but like Chick-fil-A. Sometimes you need a job, and that's a good job, and there's nothing wrong with it, but it'll prepare you to a certain degree, but then you gotta take that next step. You have to figure out what's gonna help me get prepared for the job that I want. And so you have to start doing things that will help them prepare you for the next level. You don't wanna wait till you're ready to have that job or that position to start preparing for it. You prepare for it along the way so that when the opportunity comes, people see that they're ready to plug you in and give you that opportunity. Going back to, Goodman Company, so I didn't get promoted, but I stored that nugget away. So after that, remember, every time I talked to my, what we call performance managers, I always told them from day one, I want to get promoted to the next level, just in case there's no confusion. I wanted to make sure I'm not, I wanted to make sure everybody was aware of it. And then I always sat down, and again, hey, what do I need to do? And I would find out, what are the things that I need to do to help prepare me for the next position? So 6 months later, I made senior associate, and then a year later, I made supervisor. And I was always figuring out, what do I have to do to try to get ahead? And so like I said, I actually did tax and audit for my first 4.5 years while I was at Goodman & Company. It was a great experience, and come to find out, audit wasn't as bad as I thought it was in school. And I actually enjoyed it. I found out that that's where it kind of worked best for me. And so I felt called to move on to something else. I wasn't quite sure where I was being called, but when I first got into public accounting, I really thought I'd be there for a short period of time. A lot of people always hear, get that good experience. It's a great experience, and then get out. On average, probably people spend anywhere from 3 to 5 years in public accounting. It's my opinion. It's not the easiest. It's a lot of work involved, and so I'll never kid anybody and try to pretend the hours are involved in our jobs and what it takes. But the thing I looked at is like anything that you want to do that's high reward, something that's going to accomplish yourself from a successful standpoint. It takes a lot of work. Any profession where you're trying to achieve at the highest level, it always takes a lot of work. I'm sure you look at professors, Dr. Sullivan and whatnot, and I can only imagine, I used to see him probably in class, and you sit there a couple of classes a day saying, well, I got a few classes a day, that's got to be the greatest job, but you probably don't see the number of hours that probably go behind the scenes, running a department, getting ready for class, grading papers and things. So any profession just always takes a lot of work. And I encourage you, especially early on in your career, definitely, make the sacrifices early. If you make the sacrifices early, on average, you're going to be working probably 40 years at least these days. I mean, most people, you get out of school at 23, 24. Most people are working until they're 60. Some people, I got one of my clients right now. He's in his mid-70s, and he's still ticking along. Some days he don't look like he's quite going to make it. Some days, but he's hanging in there. I mean, it's work. So I mean, you're talking about 40 or 50 years. Okay? So, those first, particularly I found that those first 3 to 5 years coming out of school, the kind of job you can have from the foundation you build from that going forward will make all the difference in the world. Working for an example is working for a firm. You can work for a firm, on the audit side at least, and usually on tax. It takes about 5 to 6 years to make manager. And I can tell you almost very few places where you're going to go and work and be able to make manager in that time period. It just is a much longer track. Now, granted, you're working probably a lot more hours to make up for those years that you may have to work for someplace else. But, it's a lot of work, but it's 5 to 6 years. You leave as a manager, now you're at a management level. So instead of leaving, you spend 2 years, you leave as senior associate, it'll take you twice as long to get to the same position that you were left at after 5 years leaving the Big Four firm. I mean, that's just a matter of, I mean, we have studies that we have put out there, not have to bring that one in the next time, but the difference where people have gone from a position standpoint, leaving after 5 years versus the first 2 to 3, is significant. And it's not even a matter if you're going to public accounting. I would say no matter what you're doing, those first 5 years really give you such a great foundation. And so be willing to sacrifice and do things then. Because once you get yourself the experience, you know, I found that, so after I've been working for four and a half years, I started putting applications out looking for a job. I think I actually applied for 5 or 6 jobs with some different firms. Decided I still wanted to do public accounting for a little while longer. And after 5 or 6 resumes, I got interviews for all of them, some big 4 firms, some regional firms. And I got job offers from all of them. So from you know, the difference between coming out of school where I'm like begging for somebody to give me a job, all of a sudden I'm saying there were 6 options of what I can do. And you know, with the experience that I now had, you know, had done well in school, I was now a great commodity that people were wanting to bring in. And now it was now my turn to choose. So, you know, I spent a lot of time praying about where I was going to go. And I think the next thing I've learned over the years too is, one, pray for everything and seek wise counsel. Okay, my dad was that for me. I always reached out to him just to bounce stuff off of him to make sure I was being rational through my thought process. But you know, and the thing I love about my dad is like he never just gave me responses. I mean, before we finished up any conversation, he's let's pray before we wrap up. You know, because there are things that you can't imagine that's going to happen down the road that only God can foresee. And it's that faith that allowed me to be able to make good decisions without knowing exactly how it was going to turn out. So when I got my offers to come in to make the, you know, to figure out where I wanted to go after leaving Goodman and Company, it came down to Arthur Anderson and KPMG. How many people heard of Arthur Anderson? A few. For those that haven't heard, it was used to be one of the big 5 accounting firms. Okay, they're no longer. Technically, they're still in business, but you know, legally they're still in business, but they're not doing anything. I mean, they basically become default because of the Enron, you know, fraud. I never could have seen that firm going down, and had I chose that path, I don't know where I would have ended up. I probably trusting God would have stood up on my feet, but the fact that I got steered away from that was truly a blessing. I sat there 2 years later. It was about 2 years after joining KPMG when Anderson went under. And I tell you, I thanked him a lot right then. But you know, from the prayer and whatnot, I really wanted to find a place that kind of fit me. And it's really when you guys are looking for jobs, you know, my wife, like I said, she used to work for Deloitte. We don't mention that anymore, but she used to work for Deloitte, and you know, there's 2 different cultures. You would do the exact, I would say the exact, but you do primarily a lot of the same things when, you know, regardless of where you go to work. You know, if you're going to public accounting, you know, any of the big 4 regional, I felt like my regional firm experience helped me with working at a bigger firm. Do the same thing. So what it comes down to when you start looking for jobs and things, find the job that you feel is a better environment for you. It's really about the culture. When you're working, you know, this time of year isn't too bad for me, but in the fall is usually my busy time because of my reporting deadlines. So when I'm sitting there working 60-some hours a week, and I got to be in there in the audit room with, you know, staff and, you know, different people and clients, and I mean, you want people you really want to be able to sit around for 12 or 13 hours a day. So, you know, as you guys are interviewing, you're talking, you're trying to figure out where you want to be, I mean, everybody would tell you it's the people, and the reason is because it's true. And so what works for, you know, Cody, what works for Danielle, I mean, it's going to be different, and you just got to find that right fit for you. So I chose KPMG. Again, I never expected to stay there very long. My goal really was to get Big 4 experience. I felt kind of slighted coming out of school because they didn't give me a shot. So it was kind of like, I'm going to show them, you know, what they missed out on. And so I came to KPMG, and I mean, I just worked very hard. And again, I made sure that people understood what my goals and objectives were. So, you know, you usually have a performance manager wherever you go. You know, someone's going to help you, you know, set your goals for the year and make sure you're achieving them. And so I always made sure, hey, this is what I want to do. And so my #1 target was to make manager. And again, I felt like if I made a manager, had a Big Four firm on my resume, I'd be good. And so I just started working. And the one thing is, you're probably not going to be able to see it as much now, but I'm an introvert by nature. So when I was here at Liberty, and we had most of my classes were about this size. I don't know what they are nowadays, how big they may be getting, but they, talking in front of people, it made me want to throw up and pass out. It was just bad. I remember sitting there with little 3x5 cards doing my little speeches. You had to give like 3 to 5 minute speech communications. And I hated it. And I just didn't, I had a hard time just going to people. Once you got to know me, then I run my mouth like crazy. Then I do this. This is, once I know you, then I can keep going forever. But when I got to KPMG, again, being that proactive, I got out there and I started networking. I went to events. If something was going on, especially with people at the higher levels that I got to meet, I got out there so they knew who I was. KPMG, we have 24,000 some employees in the U.S. alone, 100-some thousand employees globally, and 1,800 in the Washington, D.C., Tyson's area. So it's easy to get lost. And I came from an office my largest office that I worked into at that point was about 40 to 50 people. Goodman & Company at the time I was there was 200 people in total across 5 or 6 offices. So going to an office of 1,800 people, and actually at the time, for those who may have heard of a company called Bearing Point, that was our consulting arm. We were still combined, so we actually had 4,000 people working in the D.C., Virginia area when I started. You walked down the hall, you didn't know anybody. I was not used to that. So again, I got involved. I started, going to events and meeting people, making sure I'm introducing myself. Making sure I was trying to find opportunities to get on different projects and things to really make a name for myself. And I just worked hard. Frankly, my wife is probably by far smarter than I am. There are things that I can call her and ask her questions and things, and she processes it. We both think a little bit differently, so sometimes it does help us to kind of bounce things off each other. But my sister was one of those people that they just get it quicker. For me, it was never natural for me. Like, I worked very hard. I had to spend a lot of time studying. I wasn't going to go home and spend an hour listening to Dr. Sullivan and walk in class the next day and get an A on my test. That was not going to happen. I had to put a lot of time in it. And so, realizing what I wanted to achieve, I spent a lot of time, taking stuff home with me, reading our audit manual, making sure I understand what the rules and regulations were, making sure, how do I get ahead? How do I specialize in something? If we entered a new tool that we were using on the engagement, I would take it home and I would try to figure out, how to do it so I can become proficient in it. So, I could be going home on the Metro and still reviewing some work from the prior year, just trying to get up to speed. So I was always trying to find out, how do I get ahead? How do I separate myself from my peers? Because, depending on how far you want to go, it's competitive. So it's like, how do I stand out? One of the things I did, we have what we call our Associates Council in DC, and it's basically, it's kind of a leadership team that comes together. We got to meet with our business unit partner in charge to discuss issues affecting the senior associate and associates. It was great because, one, it got me to see me as a leader. It got me to take on some roles I wouldn't got to do otherwise. And one of the things you heard me say a lot tonight is like networking. Our business unit partner in charge was a man named John Beemeyer. So, every quarter we got to meet with John and talk about it. This is one of the smartest people I've ever been in a room with. And again, not knowing what's going to happen, John Beemeyer, this guy I got to meet with for 2 years on a quarterly basis, is now not only the chairman of the U.S. firm, but he's actually our global chairman as well. And so, when we, sometimes he's down in D.C. and we see him, and, to be able to sit in a room with the chairman of the firm and have a conversation like it's no big deal, all because of the time I spent early on and because of what I got involved with, makes all the difference. We were down in India when I got promoted, and he was actually down there, and we're just talking with him and his wife, and it's like it was all about the networking. The fact that I got out of my shell, I did the things that I wasn't necessarily always comfortable with. It just afforded me so many opportunities. And so as I got involved in things, I got involved in recruiting, I kept getting more opportunities. People got to know me. It's like the things that I knew I didn't like to do were the things I forced myself to do. That's the only way you're going to get ahead. It's like doing your strengths is the easy part. You probably know by now what some of your strengths are and what you think you do well. That's not the thing I always focus on. I always focus on what don't I do well, because that's what you need to improve upon. That's how you get better. Figure out what are the things that you need to do to improve. And as I took on more roles, I kind of went up, and as I made it to manager and then senior manager, I sat there and people used to ask me, like, are you trying to make partner? And honestly, I'm like, I had no intention to. I told people, it's like, if I make partner, it's because I forgot to leave. Because I just didn't see that it was going to be the right life for me. But, you know, as I continued to look for direction and whatnot, I still felt I was called to be where I was. And again, a lot of it was the culture. Now, in saying some of this, it's like it sounds kind of easy to kind of push and whatnot, but I can tell you there's a couple of things that I'll tell you that I want to make sure everyone hears before we leave here tonight. And that when you're working out in the secular world, it is a challenge. Okay, like I said, I felt very fortunate to be here for 4 years and to be surrounded. I had some great, and the guys on the soccer team. I mean, shoot, my roommate in college was Billy Graham's grandson, Will Graham, and the Graham family doesn't get much older than that. So I mean, it's like I felt blessed. You know, it's just I was just surrounded. And then when I got out, it's easy to get lost. And I would tell you this: while my faith has always been there, I had to let my work priorities get in the way more than I should have. And there are things I look at back now that if I had to do it over again, I sure enough would. So along the way, as I moved up, I worked really hard, and I think early on I wasn't really focused on partner, and I think that was key. I wasn't so, I always worked, so I never took myself out of contention to be a partner, and I never told anybody I didn't want to make it, because you never tell people you don't want to do something, because you never know when you change your mind. But I just worked to do my best, and that's the thing that I always was brought up doing, is say, hey, do your best and then trust God with the rest, and that's all you can do. And whatever happens, happens. And if you can walk out there each day knowing you did your best, that's the most important thing. So I always worked my best, but there were times where I was putting in the hours, I was always trying to do the best, that sometimes it's like, losing sight of things at home and, not making the time. Now, we talk a lot these days about work-life balance of things, and the one thing I'll tell you, work-life balance in my profession isn't 40 hours a week, 365 days a year. It's the up and down. So during busy season when I'm working 60, maybe 70 hours a week, my wife knows that she's got, I leaned heavily on her, trying to get our son and stuff, things that I couldn't do. But the minute things slowed down, that's when I had to start making time for family. And that's when I'm like, okay, he's got a doctor's appointment, I'll take him. He needs to get to practice, I need to do it. So, that was the balance. But still, it's so easy to get lost in that. And that's why it's so important to have that good support system. Wherever you start working, find a good church. That is the best. I promise you, that's probably the best thing I can tell you tonight. Wherever you end up, wherever you go, find a good church and find a good home base. Because the further you get away from that, the harder it is to get pulled back in. And you get so wrapped up in other things. When you're here, it's easy. I had to get a transcript for the certification I'm doing, and remind me of times I actually called up and no one answered the phone because everybody was in chapel. Like, oh yeah, they just shut everything down. It's like, not many places I just shut everything down. So when you got in the real world, trust me, there's not going to be a lot of places that the whole place is going to shut down for a chapel. So you need to find that good home base and find the people that are going to help you stay accountable and walking, because it's easy to get distracted. Now, as I worked through and finally realized I was on the partner track, that's where I think I lost my most focus. Okay, that's when I think I was so caught up in trying to make partner that I think that became my biggest priority. That became my idol at the time. Okay, I felt like I invested that much time in my career that to lose it would have been devastating. And I poured myself into it. And if there was a period of my time, I honestly would say if I had the chance to go back and redo it, I probably would do things a lot differently than I did. I would not have poured myself into my work the way that I did. It was probably about 18 months. And to put it in perspective, I can tell you I had this 1 year, we have these billable hours. And for those that don't know, you learn this as you start doing billable hours. You work 40 hours a year, 52 weeks a year. Was it 2080, 2040? 2080. 2,080 hours is basically working 40 hours a week, every week, you know, all year long. So during this time period, I had a year where and this is a key word, I billed 2,200 hours. Billed 2,200 hours. I was a senior manager at the time, which means that my goal for that year was about 1,600 hours is what my normal goal was for charting the work. So I charged 2,200 hours. So when you think about the fact that 40 hours a week, 52 weeks a year, and I billed 2,200 hours, that did not include the time I spent doing my training and my administrative tasks. So if I probably look back now, I probably worked 2,600 hours that year. And one of my friends walked into my office one day, he showed me the list of all, he used to send out a list of all the managers' utilization, and he sorted it and had me at the top. And he wrote a note to me, he said, "You won. Where did you lose?" I have that in my office to this day. And the reason it means so much to me is like because I really lost track of a lot of things. I didn't realize how much I was even working. That's how, you know, the lack of focus. I was so focused on work that I just didn't even realize how much I was doing. I had no idea I had worked that much. And I completely hit a wall. I burnt out. There are some times that I look back now, my son's in the Air Force now, and, you know, I do look back saying, you know, there are times that I missed out on that I don't get anymore. Now that he's gone and on his own, it's like I missed out on so many opportunities. And if I had to do it over again, I would. And I say that in all sincerity, that if it cost me being a partner, I mean, that was where the life I came on. I finally showed my performance manager, I'm like, okay, I've done all that I can do. And I can't do anything more. It's either meant to be or it's not. I have to let go, but I can't keep trying to do more because it's competitive. I knew I had another guy who was up for it too, and we're like, and I'm just like, I just had to trust God, and I've extended myself as far as I'm willing to go. And the bringing it home is like, a couple of years ago, you submit these nomination forms for partner, and they had me filling out the form again. It was the second year in a row they had me filling it out. Didn't really think it was going to. My performance manager actually told me, she's like, I think it's a long shot this year. And, you know, but, you know, we'll see what happens. And she's like, you may want to start thinking about where you want to go. And I just started praying and trying to figure out what's next in my life. I hadn't known anything else. I've been working for about 14, 15 years at that point, and I knew nothing else. And I just started praying, and I finally, for the first time, I felt like there was this peace that, well, maybe it is time for me to move on. And I started feeling like maybe it's time for me to let go, and after this next busy season, 8, 9 months from now, it's time for me to maybe just walk away from KPMG. So feeling pretty good about this decision. Life is going on pretty well. Get into May, and I get this email saying, you know, you're going through an interview, a panel interview process. I'm like, God, why are you putting me through this? I'm like, you know, I'm making my peace, whatever. And so I'm sitting here going, you want to be excited. I was kind of half excited, but I'm kind of like, now what do? How do I go? And so I went through the first interview. You know, the first interview went very well. You know, you actually had to go through 3 rounds of interviews. And so you do the first round with, you know, 3 audit partners from out the region. Then you do a panel with 6 partners from, you know, tax, audit, advisory, risk management. You know, you're just getting peppered questions for about an hour, and I'm just praying my way through this. God, what are you really calling me to do? What's the goal? And I'm like, okay, this can go bad at any given time. You know, just it'll be the end of it. And as I prayed, I just, you know, I realized that, you know, God had initially called me to KPMG for a reason. And the thing that I found now is like, while I love auditing, I really have enjoyed what I do. It's as I've risen through the ranks, it's the opportunity I have to be able to impact lives of those behind me, to help them grow in their careers, to be able to come out here to Liberty. And I realized that God wasn't done with me yet where I was. And now He's going to give me a bigger platform from which I can work from. And I got through my interviews. You know, one of our vice chairs, they call you up on the phone on the weekend. And I remember the weekend I got a call, you know, they got the board approval on Thursday night, so calls started happening on Friday. So I sat there Friday waiting, no call. Saturday, no call. Sunday, I'm like, I guess that interview didn't go as well as I thought. It's like, what now? And around like 8 o'clock, I get this weird number coming through my cell phone, and it's the vice chair congratulating me on making partner. And at that point in my career, I'm like, if that was what all I'm just getting to that point, that was probably one of the greatest accomplishments from a professional standpoint that I could have achieved. And I couldn't have done it without, a lot of support systems. And we talked earlier about the people around you, the mentors. Okay? You need a great support system to be successful in anything. Don't feel like you ever have to do it alone. You shouldn't try to do it alone. Like I said early on, my wife, she had left public accounting, and I had a little bit more stable hours, working as a county manager for a local government. And I mean, frankly, she managed our household, so it's like I never had to worry about what was going on at home. I tell her probably more now than I did back then how much I appreciate it, because sometimes I'm sure it didn't seem like I recognized just the amount of work she put into it. But frankly, without her helping me manage the home and what was going on there, I couldn't have done my job to the extent that I did. I had people at work. I have a mentor, one of the partners who I work with now. She was with me when I was a senior associate all the way up. She was my biggest supporter, my biggest sponsor. If there's an opportunity to come up, she was the first one to push my name out there. So, you find those people who are really going to speak on your behalf, that are in those meetings, in those doors, who can say, hey, he's doing a great job, we need to get him this chance. And if there was an opportunity where they were running a large audit engagement, she got me on it. If it was, getting put into a national, she got me into a national training to where I got, to speak in a training that got broadcast to the entire firm just to get my face out there. But it was things like that where people were just constantly looking out for me, trying to help me get where I need to be. And the best part about, I would say, my mentor from that perspective is, she didn't tell me what I wanted to hear. We can be very sensitive at times. People will try to, you hate hearing the things you don't want to hear about, right? You don't like to hear about your weaknesses. You don't like to hear about, what you're doing wrong. But it's because of those things where she told me, look, you're doing some things good, but you need to work at this. And it's because she kept telling me those things, and I was willing to listen and keep working at it, is what allowed me to continue to be successful. So the things I'll leave you with, and then I think I just want to open up for discussion. I've been talking longer than I actually planned to, quite frankly, is, one, figure out your goals. Know where you want to get to. Have a long-term goal, have some short-term goals. Take it one step at a time. But along with that, you have got to be flexible enough to let God work. Okay? You cannot do it yourself. Okay? If you start going down your wrong path, then a lot of things will go wrong, and you end up finding yourself, where you didn't intend to be. So set your goals, but then be flexible and then trust God, because ultimately you will be so much better off trusting God than just trying to do it on your own. Make sure you communicate. Do those things that you don't like to do. Get out of your comfort zone. Okay? If you don't like speaking, do what I did. Start speaking. I'll tell you, here's what really fixed my speaking thing. I'll tell you this long short story. But I was still in school. I think it was it was probably my last year of school before I came back from my redshirt year for soccer. But I had interned. And I was up in Northern Virginia, and I was interning at the National Institute of Science and Technology, and I met this woman. She was a great, real golly woman. It was great. We would talk at lunch and catch up. So she saw me read my Bible, and we were just talking. She's like, what? We're having like this youth Sunday, and I would really want you to come up and speak, to our youth. It would be great. And I'm thinking, okay, that I can do. I mean, some kids, I think I can handle that. So, I start preparing my notes, whatever. As it's getting closer, it's probably a few weeks out, and we're talking, all of a sudden, in the tone of the conversation and some of the things in the context of what she's saying, all of a sudden I realized I'm the main speaker for their morning service. I actually had to give a sermon on that, so I'm sitting there going, what just happened? And I ended up, thank goodness it was like a small church, but you're still talking to a good number of people, and I ended up having to actually give the morning sermon at a church because I thought I was talking. And it was Youth Sunday. Unfortunately, everybody was in the sanctuary. It was adults, it was everybody. And I sat there and actually I had a 40-minute thing. And so that I think is what allowed me to actually start opening up and be able to speak, because if there was ever a time I truly had to trust God for something, that was it. And he really worked through me, and he really gave me that confidence, and I really felt like as long as I don't have to rely fully on myself and I can trust God with things, anything is possible. And that is the key, anything is possible. And I had a professor tell me one time, when I was doing this CPA class, he's like, don't let your fears get in the way of your dreams. Okay? And I'll leave that with you. It's like, as long as you know that your fears get in the way of your dreams, there's nothing you can't overcome, particularly when you allow God to help you get through it. Find people who will help. Find the people who are where you want to be. Talk with them, get their thoughts and ideas. You know, find that support system, and just be proactive.